Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to my best chess games of all time series. So in this series we follow the best of the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show you again a great attacking brilliancy played by the legendary Mikhail Tal. So he was playing the game against Johann Hjartarson in the 1987 Reykjavik Open, and I wanted to show you also the standings of this very nice tournament. You see Mikhail Tal finished on the second place and Nigel Short won the tournament. Nigel Short back in the 80s was a rising star. I think in the 90s he had the opportunity to face even Garry Kasparov in the World Championship match in 1993, but Mikhail Tal was playing his last years in life, and that's why he maybe only finished on the second place. But Mikhail Tal played maybe the best game in the tournament, and this is the game that I wanted to show you today. So let's see the game. Here we have Mikhail Tal with the white pieces, e4 played by Tal. We have e5 by Hjartarson, knight on f3, knight on c6, and bishop on b5, the Spanish game. So here we have a6, bishop on a4, and now knight on f6, like this Morphy defense, or it can transpose into a Berlin defense, and castling played by Mikhail Tal. So here bishop on e7, after maybe knight takes on e4, you have d4, which is the main line. Here you can try b5, but now bishop on b3, and after d5 we can simply take this pawn, and after bishop on e6 maybe even try to play something like c4, or knight from b to d2, challenging this knight. So these are the main ideas, but in the game bishop on e7, the main line of this variation, was played, the calm line, and now rook on e1 by Mikhail Tal. This rook on e1 is a common idea. It's not that it's only protecting this e4 pawn, it leaves now also this very important square for the knight on f1. So this is sort of a liberating move for white. Then this knight can maybe jump on g3, but that are really the strategical elements in the game. The game will become very tactical, and Mikhail Tal of course loves these types of games. So b5 played by Hjartarson. Here we have bishop on b3. If you try knight on a5 to challenge the bishop, it's not a good idea, I think, because you can play immediately d4. So you see the king is in the center, you have challenge the bishop. So one of the main ideas, of course, when you have your opponent kings in the center, is to open the center as fast as we can. So here after knight takes on b3, okay, you can play a takes b3, but now after bishop on b7 attacking the e4, you can play knight on c3. If b4, then you can take d takes e5. After b takes c3, we can take the knight. Your opponent can take this b pawn, but now after bishop on f6, e5, I think is this main space advantage. You see black is continuing also the game with the weak pawn on a6, so I think this is a favorable middle game for white. So after bishop on b3, you see that's why Hjartarson first castled, and now c3, not allowing now anymore this knight on a5 idea attacking the b3, but d6 was played, and now h3. Also the common idea in the Spanish game, preventing some pinning ideas, bishop on g4, because with the c3, this c3 has a double function. Not that we have only liberated the square for our bishop after the potential knight on a5 move, we have also prepared a very powerful d4 move. So in the game knight on a5, we have still here common theory. Many games were played in these types of variations. Here bishop on c2, and now c5, creating this stonewall formation in the center. And one of the best ways, of course, to battle these types of pawn structures is to crack the position with the move immediately d4. So one of the best ways to battle this type of a pawn structure in the center is to try create an outpost on d5, because black has left now a weak square on d5, and because of this advanced pawns on c5 and e5, you will never be able to play with some pawns and kick away a potential outpost. But playing on an outpost here from white's perspective is too slow. I think you cannot make that happen. You have to make many moves in order to make something happen here on d5, and I think it would be a wrong idea. That's why Mikhail Tal, of course a great player, plays immediately d4, cracking the position in the center, hoping that if the position changes, then black will continue the game with an isolated pawn on d6. So these are the main ideas. The game went on another way, but here after queen on c7 we have knight on d2, bishop on d7, now knight on f1. You see how important it was in the beginning to play this rook on e1, simply liberating the square for our knight. We have also possibilities, if the position allows, of course, knight on g3, then maybe knight on h4 and knight on f5, cementing the knight on a very active square on the 5th rank of your opponents on the other side of the board. Here c takes d4 was played, and now c takes d4. Rook on c8, attacking this bishop on c2, so that's why knight on e3. Again, this e takes d5, knight takes on d5 idea is not so good, I think, for black, because there is always this problem about this d6 pawn, and now you have just improved white's position with the possibility to jump here on f5, creating a very nice outpost. g6, on the other hand, weakens your pawn structure further in front of your king. So I said this is not the best way, so that's why here after knight on e3, knight on c6 was played. If you try knight on c4 immediately, then knight on c4, it's not a problem. After queen on c4, bishop on b3, attacking the queen has to retreat, and now we can play bishop on d2. So if you try to somehow maybe push pawns here, it's again not good. We can play something like a4, challenging really black's position, black's advanced pawns here on the queen side, but the pawn structure is symmetrical anyway, so I don't think that white has worries here, and white has of course a better activity with both of these bishops. These bishops are not good here by black, so that's why knight on c6, finally now challenging white's center here in around the square d4, and now d5. Here we have knight on b4, also a very interesting idea by Hjartarson, and now bishop on b1. Of course you cannot play now anymore knight on c2, so Mikhail Tal has defended very good here against this potential knight on c2 outpost. So now basically our main idea is to kick away the knight, and that's why here a5 was played by Hjartarson, because the threat was of course a3, and then you wouldn't have the square on a6 to escape with your knight. So that's why a3, we have knight on a6, and now Mikhail Tal finds a very nice idea which really solves the problems on the queen side. It's the move b4. If a takes b4, then we have a takes b4, and now knight takes on b4, but now bishop on d2 will trap the knight, so you can maybe take this pawn, but here we're continuing the game with simply one piece up, and this is completely winning for white. So you see b4, tricky move, and now g6 was played by Hjartarson, and now bishop on d2. Now we can finally challenging this a5 pawn, so that's why a takes b4 was played. We have a takes b4, and now queen on b7. We're trying now to maybe trade off some rooks on the c file and really simplify the position. Here Mikhail Tal simply develops the piece, a healthy move, first bringing all of these pieces in attacking formation, and the idea is of course to attack this weak b5 pawn. So in the game, knight on c7 was played, knight on c2, trying to find a better square for the knight. Here knight on h5, and now bishop on e3. Rook on a8, and now queen on d2, not allowing some outposts here. Knight on f4 and similar ideas, because we can simply take. Rook takes on a1, knight takes on a1, and now f5. And the problem now for Mikhail Tal is that if we just flip the board a little bit, that black has built here sort of a King's Indian pawn structure. It's really like in the King's Indian, and the idea is of course to play something like f4, g4, and then f4, g5, g4 even, creating this common King's Indian attack. So you see this bishop is already endangered on e3. That's why Mikhail Tal plays first bishop on h6. So if the position on dark square closes, then he will trade off this bishop for something, and that's why knight on g7 was played, and now knight on b3. Here f4, you see it. Hjartarson played a very nice game so far. He has now really the possibility to attack here. But this bishop on h6 was a great move by Mikhail Tal, because now you cannot participate with the h pawn in the attack. So black would love to play something like h5, g5, and then after the g4, kicking away the knight, but so far you cannot just push the pawn on g5. So again, Mikhail Tal played first this positional and defensive moves, very great setup here, and then he'll strike. So he didn't play the most aggressive games in the beginnings. Now it's time for him to attack. So let's see, knight on a5. Finally he gets now what he wanted. He's attacking now. We have queen on b6, and now rook on c1, of course getting use of this open c file. Rook on a8, and now queen on c2, of course creating the simple threat attack on the knight on c2. Knight from c2 e8 was played, and now queen on b3. You see, this is also a very tricky move by Mikhail Tal, preparing knight on c6, and if the positional likes were opens, we would we would have a discovered attack against black's king. So here, if you try bishop on f6, here rook on c8 would be maybe a better idea here for black. We can try maybe this knight on c6 outpost, but now we can play bishop on f8, and the problem is that you cannot make this move, knight takes on e5, with some discovered attack, because it's not a problem if you try to push here forward. Then we have bishop on e6, and we have basically solved the problems here. So this knight on e5 tactical idea doesn't work. Here after queen on b3, as said, bishop on f6 was played by Hjartarson, and now knight on c6, cementing the knight on a very active square, again with the preparation maybe to play against this b5 weakness. Here in the game, knight on h5 was played, now queen on b2, and now bishop on g7. Bishop takes on g7, we have king takes on g7, and now Hjartarson is finally preparing his idea h6, g5, and maybe eventually g4. And now comes a move which I always like to say about this move: that had to hurt. It's sort of a that had to hurt kind of move. It's really one of these moves that only Mikhail Tal can see, and you can pause the video and try to find now the best move, and it's really a great improvement of the position of the rook. It's the move rook on c5. Damn, this was really annoying probably for Hjartarson to handle, because if you try d takes c5 here, then knight takes on e5. If you try to escape with the king here from this very annoying dark square diagonal, then knight on e7, king on f8, and now knight on d7, creating the fork against the king and the queen, and you lose the queen. If you try here knight on f6 to cover, then again we can take here simply the pawn, attacking the queen, and continue the game in the continuation. Queen on a6 can be also played, but now again we have this discovered attack, and we can take this pawn on c5. So many tactical possibilities. The queen is too well placed, and if you try something like queen on a1, it's again not a problem. Here after rook takes on a1, we can simply go, and these two central pass pawns, I think they're too much to handle here for black. So this is now completely winning endgame for Mikhail Tal. So rook on c5, as said. So here Hjartarson didn't go for this rook. He played simply queen on a6 with the idea to simplify the position. If you try something like bishop on c6 here, again rook takes on c6, bringing the rook on a very active square. After queen on a2, we can occupy now the c file. You can maybe try to play queen on a6, but again I think queen on e2, simply playing against this weak b5 pawn, is the main element here of white's attack. So as said, queen on a6, we have rook on b5, taken here by Mikhail Tal, and now knight on c7. And now you can guess now Mikhail Tal's next move. He played simply more forward with its rook on b8, and if you try bishop on c6, again it's not a problem. We can first take the rook, or here in the game Hjartarson played queen on d3, but we have this very annoying attack, so you have to make something with your queen, and that's why queen on d3. But now Mikhail Tal decoyed really the queen on the square d3, and now we have a perfect attack by these two knights and the queen. Knight takes on e5, attacking the queen, queen on d1, it's not a problem. We have this square for the king, king on h2, and now rook on a1. But now knight on g4, discovered attack here by Mikhail Tal. You have to make a move. If you try here d takes on e5, again it's even worse. We have queen takes on e5, knight on f6 can be played, but now queen on e7. We have king on h6. Now we can take the rook. If you take the rook, then queen on f8, king on h5, but now we can take the knight on f6. Again, you have to retreat with your king, and now knight on g5. It's very dangerous. If you try something like bishop on e8, here you see knight on e6, and you cannot prevent anymore white from checkmating. You can try something like queen on bishop on f7, but now again queen on g7, it's checkmate. So in the game, as I said, after king on h2, rook on a1 was played, trying to checkmate Mikhail Tal here on h1, but it's too late. Knight on g4, the discovered attack. We have king on f7, but now knight on h6. You have only one square, king on e7, and now knight on g8. In this position, Hjartarson resigned, because whatever you move, it's checkmate here in one. So you can here play knight on g5, and it's game over. So great attack. This was really funny move here, this rook on c5, in order to open the position. This queen on b2 is too dangerous, and these two knights dancing around black's king. Great attack by the legendary magician from Riga, by Mikhail Tal, and this game was really something else, I think, and deserves to be on our playlist of this best chess games of all time. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. You can watch my other best chess games of all time from the series, and you can also watch my best chess games played by computers, by Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.